Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at Generic Comic Book number one. I actually just became aware of this book in the last couple of years. I've seen people post it on Instagram, and I had no idea it existed before that. I've never run across it before in the wild. It wasn't something that was just generally on my radar to even look for. So when I saw it, it was definitely something that I wanted to start looking for, and so I've kind of kept my eye out loosely for it as I've gone to some shows and comic shops and stuff. And fortunately, I was in a local shop I go to often, and ran across this copy in a new collection that he had just gotten in. So I was fortunate enough to pick it up, and that guy always gives me good deals. So this is a pretty unique book. It's not really credited to any artists or writers inside the book, which I think is pretty interesting for a 1983 book when uh, royalties were a thing. Um, you got to love this cover though. It just has a blank letterbox, generic comic book type, superhero, action, adventure, and a cover would generally tell you what's going to be in the book, ideally, especially from this time period. So it just says this comic contains one neurotic superhero type with a variety of personal problems, one bad guy bent on world domination through arcane means, assorted villainous hench people, the hero's nefarious employer, pathetic family, and well endowed girlfriend. A plot containing a conflict, a subplot, a resolution, a plot twist, and as many fights as it takes to fill up the rest of the pages. And this says Marvel No Frills inside the UPC box there. I don't know if this book was sold as a newsstand or not. That would be interesting if somebody has one of those. So let's take a look at this generic comic book and just see how generic it is. Again, we don't have any artist credit to speak of, so can't really point to anything specific about who did this and how they created it. This is kind of like a typical splash page of like older books where it was almost like a second cover, and then we dive in and we do meet the main character. I will say this book is fairly wordy as it tries to explore this character in the most bland, generic way possible. So his girlfriend's going off, and kind of like hang tight, I'll be back. And on his way home, he goes to visit his little brother, who's in a coma, and he's got to save up the money for a surgery, but I don't know what his job is exactly, but he just doesn't quite have the money. And then on the way home, he gets robbed. And they take all of his money except for a little bit he has left to take the subway home. So he goes home, and he lives with his parents still, which, what are his parents up to that they can't afford the surgery? Take a brief moment here to point out the Marvel tryout kit. I would like to run across one of those. They intact. They kind of go high, but I think those are cool. Those are a cool piece of comic history to look at. So he's mad about being robbed and just all the things going wrong in his life, and so he picks up this snow globe of nuclear reactor and smashes it just out of pure frustration. It's just something he had in his room, and he smashes it. And then he's like, "Oh, why did I do that? That was my favorite little snow globe that I could turn upside down and watch all the snowflakes fall on 3 Mile Island." Anyway, he's like, "I'll just clean it up in the morning." So he goes to bed. And then this is his origin. Basically, while he's asleep, the snow globe of the nuclear reactor that he smashed, all these sound effects, and he wakes up and he's got a bunch of muscles. And his hair is white. And as he goes through the morning, he's running late for work. Typical problem stuff. The cover is delivering so far. Um, his parents aren't paying attention because he's got his nose buried in a newspaper, and she's making breakfast. And he jumps up and realizes he has super strength, Oh, he can hear. That's what it is. He could see the ingredients on the cereal box from a distance. He can hear like the ticking of the watch. He jumps up to run out for work when he realizes he's late and realizes he has his super strength as he smashes through the door and is like, "Oh, I'll just leave that for Dad to clean up." Hope he notices it. He's about to miss the bus. Realizes he has super speed, but he does realize he has a limit that he can only run about as fast as the bus. He gets to work. You meet his boss, who seems a little, I don't know. His boss just seems kind of like a very stereotypical, like head guy smoking a cigar, kind of short, portly. He's not really mean though. He's pretty nice to him, but he does have this other coworker that's just a total ass to him. And then because he's got these muscles, he has this other coworker that all of a sudden taking notice of him, and she wants him to come over tonight because she heard his girlfriend's out of town, which he declines. Then he decides he needs a super suit. He's got all these powers. He should do something with them because he's a good person. So he goes to the super suit store. This is meanwhile, we meet the villain of the book, and he's just some scientist that feels wronged by the world. He's created this hypno helmet thing, and he messes with his landlord just to test it. And he's like, "All right, it works. I'm out to him." Back at the superstore, this guy's trying to get him to get something custom made just for him. You see Spider-Man's costume hanging in the back. There's a Thor costume back there. But he doesn't have a lot of money, so he has to get the generic costume. Just plain white. And there's a gag here where the guy's trying to say, like, "You don't want that. It's only for people that don't have any money." A Mile High Comics ad here in 1983. The double page spread. Mile High was dropping some money. Center ad, 2 pages. Anyway, and then he goes home. He's like, "I feel like an idiot buying this after the guy tried to talk me out of it." His parents are still awake, though. He decides he's going to go on patrol. He runs across some different muggers than the ones that mugged him earlier, and he starts to take them out. And he pretty much does until this guy shows up. And this guy tests his hypno ray on him and makes him falter enough to like beat him. And then he tells the thugs, "You owe me." We should point out, he does not have a name. He has not been named by his real name, and he definitely hasn't come up with a superhero name yet. He is nameless. He is generic. And so is this villain. He does not have a name either. He wakes up from being unconscious, realizes he's late for work. We get a nice little montage panel here of how work is a pain. Here's the jerk co-worker, who I guess is his immediate supervisor, but still beneath him. And he's angling for a promotion to be at least on equal level with him so he can pay for his brother's operation that will bring him out of a coma. Then he comes up with an idea of how to stop him. So he gets his old football helmet and paints it white to match his generic costume and goes back out. He finds the thugs again and takes them on. This time, though, the hypno helmet doesn't work on him, and he's able to defeat him. The art bounces around in this from being like pretty typical to somewhat cartoonish to almost like something you would see in a parody book, like this panel here. He talks about this is an interesting part because he gets knocked back, I guess he dodges the punch, but he makes him stumble back. But then he catches himself like any capable hero, competent hero would do, and pushes off the ground to deliver a kick to the gut. Slam. And that takes him out. And then it's revealed he had a Walkman on playing You Can Do This, You Can Beat This Guy over and over to overcome the hypnotic ray. So then he marches into work. He's feeling confident today. He's like, "I'm going to go ask for that raise because I'm feeling good about everything." Well, then we come find out that the boss actually had hired those goons to break into the workplace to cover up the fact that the boss had been embezzling money. And now he's being arrested, and the jerk guy that was his immediate supervisor will be in charge of everybody. And now he won't get that promotion. He won't be able to get the surgery. And now his life as a superhero is even harder than it was before he got powers. And that is a nice, generic comic book from 1983. It's a fun, unique piece for sure. Definitely something I would say if you run across it, add it to your collection. It's not an expensive book. I didn't check eBay prices. It was, I would say, probably $10 or so on eBay, but I was able to get this for about $3. So, just be on the lookout for it. It's definitely like a cool book, especially if you like parody books like What the Not Brand Egg or any of the humor stuff. It goes right along with that and fits into a collection in that way. So that's all I got for this one. Until next time, read your comics.
It's time for when I eat ice cream.
No, we're not having ice cream right now.
When can I?
Later today, buddy. We're not having ice cream right now.
But it's the time.